We're talking with Governor Scott Walker. Why not, instead of trying to, finesse a resolution, use a sledgehammer? Why not come back and just say, I'll decertify the unions altogether. Just decertify the unions and we'll be done with this. Have you looked at that? Do you have the power to do that as a Republican majority in the legislature and as the governor?
Well, we've been looking again this week, as we have been for the last 3 weeks prior to this, but looking at what are all the full range of options. And part of this is I'm going to continue to meet with both the Speaker and the Senate Majority Leader about what other options we might have today. As you can imagine, we get input from not only across the state, but ideas from across the country. Now, you look at
every listener of mine knows how you should go.
Well, and there's all different options.
But I think some of these are legitimate questions.
Yeah, some people, and believe me, we've gotten 156,000 emails from people from who are for or against. The majority have been for, which is good news, and many of them have suggestions as well. We've been trying to look at all those possible options.
Yeah, but this to me, you can say the last 3 weeks shows why public sector unions have to be decertified. They have a hold over government, they have a hold over taxpayers that is unhealthy, and it ends now. Decertify them.
Well, and for us, again, we're looking at all the options of things that people have brought in, and again, we have the patience to understand that there's, for us, we're willing to work this process through. We're not going to rush and do something that causes, a massive crisis. We're going to do it in a systematic way. We're looking through all the options. It's why, frankly, the other day, we were having discussions, but we were a ways off, even on the discussions we had from a handful of those Senate Democrats, trying to be reasonable, trying to at least bring to the table and find out what would it take. We could never get a straight answer. What would it take to bring all or portions of your caucus back? The problem, the reason why it blew up, and the reason why, as you alluded to, why myself and the two other Republican leaders in the legislature were so frustrated on Monday, was you got this ridiculous letter from Mark Miller talking about wanting to meet across the state line, saying that it's time to resume, honest discussions, real discussions about where to go with this bill, thinking this guy doesn't even talk to his own caucus, because the day before, we sent two of my guys down to South Beloit in Illinois to talk to some of those very same interested people. He is obviously not talking to his caucus, and he's obviously at a point where he is saying and doing things that I think the public needs to understand contradict statements he's now made publicly.
Right.
Sunday night he told the Wall Street Journal they were coming back. Monday morning he flipped and sent out this toxic letter. I think, again, one can assume, I don't have this firsthand, but you can only assume that either his staff or, more likely, the National Labor Union leaders from Washington are telling him, you cannot budge, you cannot move, we will cut you out if you don't do this. And I think it's having a devastating impact on him and that caucus.
Well, I think he's trying to play the media. He is trying to play you. And I do believe that big labor is behind this, because these Democrats meet every day. They caucus every day for hours. They should be on the same page. I don't think this is a matter of what, some of them don't know what the others are doing. And I know that you're on time constraints here, so I'll end with this question. And it relates to what we've been talking about. You said we can't get a straight answer out of them as to what would even bring this to a resolution. I believe it's because big labor is behind it and they have their marching orders. And we believe Democrats have Obama and the DNC election experts coming in from D.C. and Chicago to help target Republicans in recalls. So what of this new belief that their strategy is stay out of Wisconsin for 4 to 5 months and try to regain control of the Senate through recall rather than ever come back?
Oh, I think that's exactly it. I think there is no doubt about that. We've heard that time and time again. I think Senator Fitzgerald brought that up yesterday. Trying to drag out enough time, because before all this we'd hear, give us a day or two to work this out. Then it was, give us a day because we got to get through the weekend because Michael Moore's coming in, or Jesse Jackson's holding an event, or all these other excuses, and then day after day nothing happens. And I think that you're right, that in the end there are people pulling strings from Washington who are telling them, no, you need to hold out. You need to hold out. For a while it was, we need to pour millions of dollars into at least theoretically, we don't know the exact amount, we haven't added it all up, but we need to pour a ton of money into TV ads to try and turn things around. I think for a while there they were sitting down in Illinois thinking that, if we just turn public opinion, well, Jay, as you know, one, if I was worried about public opinion polls, I would still be sitting in the state assembly, because there's no poll out there that would have showed I could win as county executive, and yet we did it 3 times, because in times of crisis, what people want more than anything is leadership. And I think in the end, no matter Democrat, Republican alike, people want elected officials to identify a problem, to identify a solution, and then go out and do it, follow through on their, and keep their word and do what they said they were going to do, and that's what we're doing here. But the strategy nationally, I think, has become larger. They're trying to go after people like Senator Alberta Darling, and I think the best way for people who are frustrated with this process is to reach out to people like Senator Darling, tell them that they support them, tell them, give them the kind of support and recognition they need for being strong on this.
Mm-hmm. And when and if these recall elections come around, give them campaign donations and work on their behalf. Because if this were to happen, that we're just going to slow walk this until we can have a recall election and try to regain control. I mean, it would be a travesty of justice. It would be an assault on the election process in Wisconsin. It would be tampering from outside forces. And I know you're not going to show your hand, but it's what has myself and listeners asking continually, isn't there something more we can do other than simply waiting around for them to either exhaust their game playing or win recalls?
Well, again, we're looking at a whole series of options, but again, the best thing for people who are frustrated is let people like Senator Darling and all the other senators, you got Van Wanggaard, you got Leo Vukmir, you've got Glenn Goldsman, all those folks in your listening area, let them know, as well as thanking those members of the State Assembly who voted for this, because I got to tell you, I was out last night speaking to a statewide tourism conference. I've been out on the road at plenty of other places the last couple of weeks. It is a night and day difference when you get on the road from what it's like around the Capitol. A night and day difference. People are saying, hey, we support you, you're doing the right thing. One of the best things I get, and I appreciate the most, is we're praying for you. I'm praying for you and your family. I'm praying for the people in the Capitol. I mean, people just really decent and respectful about this, which conflicts with the kind of signs and attacks that you see outside the Capitol. But I've said repeatedly, the protesters, at least those who are from Wisconsin, obviously many are not, but those from Wisconsin around the Capitol have every right to be heard.
Yeah, and you mentioned...
But the people who are, they should not have their voices trump out or drown out the voices of the millions of taxpayers in this state who cast a vote last November and who want us to get serious about fixing our budget and getting an economy going again.
Yeah, and you mentioned Van Wanggaard out of Racine, and he's come up big time because initially, he's a former public sector worker himself. He has a lot of deputies buddies, and he's from an area that has a lot of union workers in it, and he was initially really hemming and hawing. He has really firmed up his support for what you're doing and what the Republicans are doing, and he's really come up big time.
Well,
and some of us on this
Van
station...
Jay is the simple fact. Let me just point out this one thing about Van. This is a good example of how to get it done and how the media has ignored it because they kept saying you haven't compromised. This bill is not the same as the bill we introduced 3.5 weeks ago. This bill changed in part because Senator Wanggaard listened after those public hearings. He listened to people in his district, and he said for teachers and local government workers, there was a concern that they didn't have the same protections that state employees do under the civil service system, which doesn't change in our bill, by the way. And he said they need to have a grievance process so that without collective bargaining, they have some way of having some protections, objective protections. That got amended. That was included in the bill as it came out of the Joint Finance Committee because of Senator Van Wanggaard's leadership. And that's a good example. Fix it. Identify a problem. He fixed it. And then he said, hey, if you do that, the people I've talked to, the good, decent, hardworking people that are out there are protected. And that's what's in this bill. And that's, again, all the more reason why it's frustrating that these Senate Democrats are hiding out in Illinois, because we have made changes to improve the bill. But you cannot participate in democracy if you're not in the arena. And the arena is not in Rockford or Chicago or Freeport. It's in Madison, Wisconsin, our state's capital, and it's time for them to come home.
Yeah. I've kept you way too long. Thanks again. Keep up the good fight. Remain strong. Please keep reassuring those few Republicans in the Senate that they've already weathered the worst of it. The recalls are going to happen anyway, and giving it now would just be insane.
You're exactly right.
Thanks a lot. Governor Scott Walker. I've gone late. We have to pinch news in here in the